And what's happened to you in the past does not define you. Nobody is going to come to save us. I know what it feels like to be out of alignment, to be out of integrity, to not tell the truth. If you do not feel worthy of success, there's probably a part of you that doesn't feel worthy of love. The therapist looked at me and she said, "Do you feel worthy of love?" I couldn't even answer the question. If you have done something and you're hiding it and you're not speaking to it, the relationship in many ways isn't real anyway. What might be blocking you from having the financial success that you want is this lie that you've tried to cover up. One of the first questions I ask clients all the time is like, who are you? It's fascinating how uncomfortable people get when I ask them who they are. Today, yes, I care what other people think, but I don't care what other people think more than what I think about myself. Well, welcome to the Burn Up Podcast. My name is Adam Nugent. I'm your host. Today, I'm going to talk about the core of what I do in my profession, what I do with men, my belief in coaching, consulting, guiding, whatever the word is you want to call it, and really what burn up is. The whole concept of burn up is really that every negative, painful, failure, heartbreak, everything that we go through that we do not want to go through is actually for our good. Just if you look into my logo, it's a man rising from the flames, similar to a Phoenix Legion. And so in essence, when we go through trials and tribulations and hard things, because we always do, we have a choice of how we want to see that, especially after the fact. We have a choice to look back, and this is the way you can rewrite your past, is like, what's my story attached to what happened? Was it for my good? Was it not? What did I learn from that? Which this is my belief today. Everything that we go through, whether negative or positive, painful, liberating, orgasmic, whatever the emotion is, what if all of it's for our good? Especially the bad, the fear, the pain, the uncomfortable, the letting go, the destruction, the rock bottom, all of it is for our good. And I truly believe that. As I look at everything that I've gone through, and I've gone through quite a bit, is that every one of those things, as painful as those moments were, as I look back on them, they were for my good. They helped me get to where I am today. And as I continue to face challenges and pain and failures or whatever it happens to be, I know now consciously that there is going to be something positive that comes out of that. When you're in the storm, many times you can't see the light. Many times you can't see clearly. You're stuck in it. Stories, beliefs, emotions, worth, identity, all the things. And it's not uncommon that in those moments we can spiral. Many times it can feel like an eternity when you're in it. I get it. I know that all too well. I'm not negating or saying that those feelings aren't valid. And I'm also not saying that, hey, I want to feel pain. I want to feel all of these things. I don't want to feel them just like anyone else. But when you can learn to accept them and learn to lean into them, you can actually move through things a lot quicker. That's one of the things that I'm super passionate about that I've had to learn the hard way. You know, when I first got into this, my original why was to help men not go, experience pain or go to the depths of hell. And while I don't want anyone to go as deep as I went, nearly taking my own life, I do believe wholeheartedly, conviction for me, that many of the answers that we're searching for, that light, if you will, is actually found in the dark. We have to go into the dark. Some have to go deeper than others, but that's where the answers are. That's where growth happens. That's where stories and beliefs and all the things potentially can get ripped away. It's in those trying moments. And we have a choice to how we face those, how we move through those, how we accept those. I'm in a season today that I'm really practicing, some call it the art of detachment. And I would say to my words is like, I am consciously practicing just accepting what is. There are so many things that are out of my control. And frankly, the only thing that I have any control is how I react to a certain situation. I have no control over anyone else, anything else in the world. As a society, we get so caught up in politics and what's going on all over the world. And there's so many horrific things that are happening. But at the end of the day, we have zero control over it. Zero. Yet we give so much mental bandwidth and energy to all these different things. And the reality is it just causes us consternation. If we can just sit back and step away from it, we realize we have no control over it. Now, many times there's a lot of things in life that happen to us, things that we didn't choose. But we are ultimately responsible for how we react to it, what we do with it. If we stay a victim, if you will, of something that's happened to us, no matter how horrific it is, the reality is that can become our identity, and that can keep us stuck. We have a choice, no matter how much pain, no matter how much trauma, no matter how much has happened to us that we did not choose. It is our responsibility to move through it, to heal from it, to use it as a stepping stone to get to the next level, to alchemize it, whatever the word is, the way ever you want to see it. We do have the responsibility. It's on us. Now, we are the creators of our life. We are the authors of our life. Nobody is going to come to save us. We have to save ourselves. And in order to get where we want to, it requires action. It requires moving forward. And more than anything, the root of it is the story we tell ourselves. What's the story? What's the story attached to it? That is the core of what I do. For those of you that follow me on social, you'll see me post constantly around, change your story, change your life. Everything's rooted in a story. You're the author of your life. Easier said than done, in the flip of a switch to change your whole perspective and your whole being, especially when it's something that's very, very painful. But I'm telling you from experience and from someone that's literally experienced the highs of highs and lows of lows in every pillar of my life, very, very painful stuff, that you can rewrite the narrative, you can change it, and you can move through things quicker. And what's happened to you in the past does not define you. Whether it's something that somebody did to you, or more importantly, something that you did. It's not who you are, it's what you did. There's a big distinction between the two. And so in order to embody this new way of being, in order to change the story of who we are, it's imperative that we actually peel away all the things that don't serve us. Now, I believe that we are at 100% capacity all the time. All the time. It doesn't matter what's going on in our life. When someone says, hey, I could only give 20% today, or I had nothing left to give. Well, they might not have something to give in a certain particular part of their life, but the other part of their life is being overwhelmed. It could be lack of sleep. It could be stories. It could be limiting beliefs. It could be anxiety. It could be whatever. Whatever it happens to be, good, bad, ugly, positive, negative, we are at 100% capacity. And everybody wants more wealth, more health, more intimacy and connection in their relationships, more joy, more peace, whatever it is that you want more of. It requires that you let something go. It's the letting go. It's the burning down. It's the letting go, which more often than not are stories and beliefs. The letting go of those stories, the letting go of those beliefs is and can be extremely painful. Extremely painful. One of my coaches here just recently, this was a few months ago, we were in a conversation and I was upset about something. And, he asked me a question. He's like, well, what purpose does this serve? And I'm like, this doesn't serve any purpose. I was just pissed. He goes, of course, it serves a purpose. What's the purpose? It's serving a purpose. And as I sat and thought deeper into that, the reality is many times we tell ourselves a story, or we have a belief that many times this is unconscious. We're not even aware of it, but we have a story attached to a particular thing, or many times to us, to really validate why we are where we are in life. So for example, if I want to make more money, and let's say I'm in sales and, I've got a story that, I'm not confident, or I'm not worthy, or I'm scared, or I don't know enough. If I have all these embedded stories, those are stories that are supporting the narrative as why I am where I am today financially. And so if I were to peel those things back and be like, the truth is, it's not that I'm not smart. It's not that I'm, all these things. All of a sudden we're exposed. The truth. They say the truth hurts, but the truth will set you free. That is the core of burn up, is getting to the truth, the real truth, the core of the truth. And what I'm talking about more than anything is, where are we lying to ourselves? Again, it's all rooted in a story, but the reality is the hardest person we have ever faced, currently face, or will ever face is ourselves. And many times when we look in the mirror and for us to look at ourselves and take radical accountability for the role that we're playing, we're the common denominator in everything. We're playing a role in every capacity, in every particular way, even for the things that we didn't choose. That truth, sitting with that, is very, very painful. Many times we can attach our worth to that. There's lots of things that can happen to that. But once we get to the point where we can truly take radical accountability for everything, and then practice to not attach our worth to it. It's something I did. It's not who I am. That's where freedom is. The truth will set you free. The truth will set you free. And I'm telling you from my own experience of having seized, I've done it all. Cheated, betrayal, lied, been out of alignment, been out of integrity. I've experienced all of that. I know what it feels like to be out of alignment, to be out of integrity, to not tell the truth. And the reality is the truth will catch up with you. It always does. A universal truth that I believe in is you cannot outrun the truth. You cannot. You can't. And it will catch up to you. And it might not be immediately. It might be days. It might be weeks. It might be months. It might be years. It might be decades. In fact, you might not totally speak the truth of something. You might never actually speak the truth. But guess what? You might think it's hiding, You might think nobody knows. Hey, nobody knows. I don't want to speak it. I don't want to take ownership. I don't want to take accountability. But God knows, the universe knows, and it might be manifested in certain areas of your life. So I've seen this happen in countless times where somebody pretends or shows up a certain way, but they're actually living a different life, or they have this lie or something big that they did years ago, and they've just tried to bury over it. They've just tried to move forward. And the reality is you can't outrun it, especially when there's big things. It will catch up to you. It will manifest in other ways. You will have problems or challenges in other parts of your life. And if you can peel it all back, you might think it's something different. But the reality is once you speak the truth, you're then set free. You're then set free. And for example, you might have had some betrayal, let's say in your marriage or relationship. And, it's like, no one's going to know, no one's going to find out. But then, you pretend even if you you make a resolute decision, like I'm never going to do this again, whatever that happens to be. But then in another pillar of your life, let's say financially, you keep hitting roadblocks, you keep hitting struggles, you're struggling and you can't figure out why. The reality is what might be blocking you from having the financial success that you want is this lie that you've tried to cover up. When you go to get a massage, for example, let's say your shoulder hurts and you have your shoulder worked on over and over and over and over again. And it's not getting better. Yeah, it feels better. I feel a little bit better, but it keeps coming back. But what you didn't realize, the massage therapist goes, oh, you've got this pressure point in your back that we need to release. Then all of a sudden releasing that wasn't even attached to your shoulder. All of a sudden your shoulder has relief. Same thing applies in life. We've got to get to the core and we've got to rip away the stories. We've got to rip away the lies and get to the core of it. That process is very, very painful. So one of the first steps or modules that you will that I do with working with my men on my one-on-one coaching is I call it the operator audit. We get deep and I ask a series of questions, and really the goal is to get to the truth. We have certain beliefs and we think beliefs or our perception is the truth, but many times there's layers to it. There's layers. We've got to get to the core of it. We got to get to it. We have to rip all that away. We have to get to the truth, the actual really truth based off facts. And that process is very painful. It's uncomfortable. Many people aren't able to do it. In fact, I believe that most people are not able to fully tell the truth and take radical accountability for the things that they've done or for the reasons they're showing up a certain way in life. It's too painful. Again, the truth hurts. But I can tell you from experience being on both sides of it, it is priceless to be free. It is priceless to release yourself from that. And I cannot articulate enough the power of speaking the truth, whatever it happens to be, no matter how painful, no matter what the outcome happens to be. It's worth it. It's worth it to not live a lie and to not carry the baggage, the stories and everything attached to it. It will set you free and put you in places that you never thought possible, and it will get you peace. Peace beyond measure. The only truly way to get there, I believe, is actually by being truthful and being radically accountable for the role that you play in your life and making amends where necessary. It is uber important. So in order to have, and the reason this is so important is, again, we want to have a very strong foundation. I focus, on the 5 pillars of life. You've got emotional and mental pillar. You've got the physical pillar, your physical body. You've got your relational, marriage, relationships. You've got your spiritual body, your connection with God, source, the universe, whatever you believe in. And then you have your financial, the money component of it. And my belief is you can have it all. You can have it all. You can have a strong body, a thriving relationship, making a ton of money, spiritually aligned, and emotionally, mentally strong. I also believe that if one of those pillars is off, it will negatively affect the other pillars. I can tell you this from experience. I built an empire on stilts. For years, my emotional and mental well-being was shit. Relationally, was not doing well. Physically, I was morbidly overweight. Spiritually, not aligned. But the financial piece, now that was cranking, and I was making a ton of money. But I had these other voids in my life, and for so many reasons, whether it was fear of abandonment, not wanting to deal with it, whatever, rather than dealing with or leaning into the uncomfortable or facing the truths or the role that I was playing, I chose to put additional energy into making money. And what happened? Yeah, I made more money. But what was wild is that continued to grow. I actually over time felt more empty, My worth was tied to other people. My worth was tied to how much money was in my bank account. My worth was tied to how many toys and the real estate and all the things. Like, oh my gosh, look at me. Look at I have all these things. But the reality was I was dead on the inside. And I know so many men in the pursuit of wealth, their identity and everything's attached to it, but they are so unsettled on the inside. They lack purpose. There's a void that's there. And many times, whether it's pursuing more in the wealth, many times that void, not knowing what to do with it, not wanting to face the things that people are avoiding, turn to addictive behaviors, turn to addictive substances. That's where addiction kicks in. My belief is addiction is rooted in avoidance. It's avoiding it's avoiding what you need to do. It's avoiding the uncomfortableness. Addiction is rampant. Everybody has some sort of an addictive pattern of behavior they go to. There's so much emphasis on drugs, porn, alcohol, but you can be addicted to Netflix. You can be addicted to social media. You can be addicted to drama. Anything that you are turning to avoid what you actually need to do is an addiction. It's a coping mechanism. And so learning how to sit in the uncomfortableness and move through that is a superpower. It's not easy, but I'm telling you, when you can be truthful, take radical accountability and move through the uncomfortableness, it's not easy. It is worth its weight in gold. It is priceless. So in the role that I play, as a coach, as I'm working with men, is helping peel away all the layers. We cannot build a foundation regardless of the pillar until we rip away the shit, rip away the stories, rip away the limiting beliefs. It will not happen. It's fascinating, as I've done my own training and coaching with other coaches, coaching coaches, or whatever it happens to be, the thing is like, tell everybody what they want and then give them what they need. So for men, most men want to be physically fit, want to make more money, want to have more sex in their relationships, right? They want more of this. And so they think that the answer is like, for example, in business, I just need to hire this business consultant that's going to give me a roadmap and it's going to go do this or do this. Okay, that's great. Yes, that's all necessary. Action matters. Nothing's going to be given to you. And I'm going to get to that here in a minute. But the reality is, if you have a limiting belief internally that you are not worthy of success, I don't care what the plan is. I don't care what's happening. You're going to hit roadblocks. You're not going to reach your full potential. If you do not feel worthy of success, there's probably a part of you that doesn't feel worthy of love. Now, my belief is everybody, because you're human, is worthy, period. I say this all the time in this podcast. I say this all the time on social to people I work with. Like, there is no footprint. Your worth is not determined by something that you need to do, or it's not tied to something you've done in the past. You're just worthy, period. I believe you're deserving of what you want. All of us are. But the difference is you also have to earn it. It's not going to be given to you. You have to do the work. None of this is possible without actually taking action. But if you can rewrite the story around, hey, I'm worthy of this, I'm deserving of this, and then be willing to move in, that's where magic happens. But if you are questioning your worth, you are not going to be able to actually do the things necessary. Even energetically, it's going to hold you back. So we've got to rewrite the stories. We've got to dispel all of these Franklys that are lies. They're not accurate. And again, at the end of the day, you're the author of your life. What matters more than anything is what you think about yourself, what the stories you tell yourself when you're alone, when nobody's watching, the commitments that you make that you either follow through or don't follow through. It starts and stops with you. That's where it starts. So again, and these stories, if you will, these negative loopholes, this negative self-talk, whatever it happens to be, look at them as programs. Some of these things you've been saying since you were a little kid. If you're 40 or 50 years old, it's not unlikely that you have a go-to pattern that's just been so ingrained in you that you say or think a certain thing and you're not even possibly even aware of it. It's your unconscious. So this process is actually designed to help strip away the stuff that's not serving that unconscious mind. We've got to identify what it is, and then we have to actually counter it with something different. So I mentioned worthiness. A simple statement, a feeling of like, hey, I'm not worthy of this. It's like, no, I'm more than worthy. Hell yeah, I'm worthy. I remember when I went to therapy for the first time, and this is 10 plus years ago. And I was married at the time, and the therapist looked at me and she said, "Do you feel worthy of love?" I couldn't even answer the question. I'd never been asked that. Never even thought about it. And as I sat there, I'm like, I couldn't even answer it. And my silence was the answer. And I remember I just started crying, and I'm like, and my shoulders, and I kind of shrunk down, and I'm like, actually, I don't feel worthy of love. And I know I'm not alone in that. What's fascinating with the men that I work with, and again, it's not a conscious thing that people think about right at the beginning, but no matter, guys that make a hell of a lot of money, and if something's off in their marriage, there's a part of them, deep-rooted belief that they don't feel worthy of love. Or someone that's got a phenomenal marriage but is having financial stress or financial heartache or not reaching their full potential, there's a component or a part of them that actually believes that they're not worthy of success. It's just a story, and that's a story that can be rewritten. So I spend a lot of time with these men, and we're stripping away the stuff. It's uncomfortable. And one of the most incredible things and beautiful things you get with me is I can connect with your shit. Again, many times there's a lot of shame and guilt associated with things that we've done, right? No matter how big it is, no matter how small it is, there's guilt. We want to hide that. We have these secrets. What if they knew this? What would they think about me? One of the greatest things you get with me is more likely than not, whatever you've done or haven't done, like I've done. And I'm open about it. I share about it. I talk about it here. I talk about it publicly. I don't have any secrets. There's freedom with that. It's been very painful to speak the truth. It's been very painful to take ownership. It's been very painful to make amends where I could. It's been extremely painful because there's so much of my worth was tied to that. There were seasons of my life that I lost myself, and it's like, who is this guy? But when you speak to it, you're free. When you own it, you're free. No matter what the other person has, let's say it's you betrayed or lied to somebody, no matter what their experience is, you're not responsible for how they show up anyway. And to be honest, the reason you're not willing to tell the truth if you've lied or betrayed to someone is because you're trying to control the narrative. You don't want to see what their reaction. The reality is you don't have any control of how they react or don't react. And the reality is if you have done something and you're hiding it and you're not speaking to it, the relationship in many ways isn't real anyway because you're not being authentic. It's exhausting wearing masks. Part of this process is let's rip the masks off. Again, this is uncomfortable. Growth and transformation is uncomfortable. It's the letting go of people, potentially relationships, beliefs. Part or maybe even all of you needs to die. That death, that mourning, that burning to the ground is excruciating. It is painful. And yet, if you stay in it and continue to speak the truth, it will set you free and you will go to levels you never thought possible. I promise you that. That is a universal truth that I've seen in my own life, that I've seen in the life of countless others. It is through the pain. My tagline is freedom is in the fire. Everything, and I mean everything we want that we don't currently have, is on the other side of the flames. It's in the fire. It's what we're resisting. The fear that we're feeling, the stories attached to it, is a calling. If you're scared about something or nervous about something, that's the universe's way of saying, hey, it's time to lean in. It's time to lean in. And if you lean into that and you step into the flames, you're going to find out it's going to hurt. And it might be a 4th, 5th degree burn, but you're not going to die. And you're going to come out on the other side of it, refreshed, new, and free, with a blank canvas to do whatever the hell you want and be whomever you want. So again, we've got to strip away the stuff. We've got to strip away the stuff that's not serving us. That process is painful. Many men, even some that I've worked with, have been only willing to go part way or halfway. But those that choose to go all the way, it's uncomfortable, but where they're headed in their life is truly transformational. They are on an exponential growth path, and we can get there quicker by ripping the Band-Aid off. So again, what's the story? Who are we? Right? When we go through the audit, I then take men through a process what I call kind of the rebuild protocol. We go through and we identify more things that are holding us back. So what are the lies? We've got to identify all the negative loopholes or these negative programs because we have to overwrite them. Unfortunately, we just can't go pick it out and just take it out and just, hey, I'm never going to feel this way again. It doesn't work like that. We've got to have something else. We've got to have another way. We have to be able to see things. And the reality is that story we tell ourselves can be as grandiose or crazy or delusional as you want it to be. In fact, as I take men through this process, and even as I've done this in my own life, when I first wrote this whole thing out of who I am, or who really at the time is like, who do I want to be? I didn't believe it. It felt kind of crazy. I felt like a narcissist reading it. I'm like, ugh, who talks this way? But at the end of the day, what if that's the way I see myself? That doesn't mean walking into a room and thinking I'm better than anybody else. It's not about that. But just again, if I can see myself in such a light and in my greatest version, my highest version, if you will, I'm going to take that energy into other parts of my life. Again, it's rooted in a story. It's rooted in who you are. One of the first questions I ask clients all the time is like, who are you? It's fascinating how uncomfortable people get when I ask them who they are. So who are you? So for those of you that are listening or watching, sit with that for a minute. Who are you? Who are you? And I'll tell you what, a lot of the standard answers, again, I work with men. The default answers that most people give is I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a provider, I'm a friend, I'm loyal, I'm a son of God. I mean, whatever it happens to be, right? Those are all facts. Those are all true, right? But for example, what if, for you, for example, to say, being a dad is really important. You're like, I'm a dad. What if instead of just saying I'm a dad, you actually believe that you're the greatest father on the entire planet? That's your core belief. And who is anyone else to tell you that you're not? But imagine this, if you're telling yourself you're the greatest father in the world, I mean, you're telling yourself, you repeat it, you listen to it, all the different things to overwrite that program. And imagine that you come home one day from work, you're exhausted. You don't want to do anything, you're tired, you want to kick your feet up and take a load off. And you happen to have a 4-year-old son. Dad's home. You're exhausted. You want to check out. And he's like, Dad, will you come out and play with me? Dad, will you come out and play with me? Your default, what do you want to do in that moment? You want to just chill out, tell him you give him a few minutes. I need a minute, maybe later. I can't, I'm tired. But you've told yourself you're the greatest dad in the world. You're the greatest dad in the world. If you've told yourself that and you believe that, the actions will follow. You are more likely to get up off that couch and go play with it because the greatest dad in the world is going to get up and play with his son. Simple example, but it applies in everything. So the more grandiose, the more you put yourself out there, the more egotistical, whatever the word is you want to say it, that's going to put you up into a higher level. Just today I had a call with a company that I work with. We were talking about fear. And this is a door-to-door company where guys go, and they get more no's than yeses. And a guy shared something that I thought was a phenomenal example of just fear. Here recently, there was if you saw this on the news, there was a little girl that fell off a Disney cruise. She fell off the boat. The dad jumped in to save her, floated with her. I think it was for 20 plus minutes. I could have that wrong. But nevertheless, the man without hesitation jumped off the boat, into open waters to try to save his daughter. And we've heard multiple stories of people that have tried to do that and both people pass away, or one passes away, or sometimes the one that's drowning or in the water actually lives in the one that went to save them. I mean, we've heard all the stories, but the man jumped in. I'm sure he was scared to death. And so if a man can jump off a boat into open waters, right, to save his daughter, maybe we don't have to be so scared to knock on that door to have somebody tell us no. Right? It's just a story. And so many times as I help men work through this, they can't see this. They can't see this higher version of themselves. So then we find people in their lives that they look up to, whether it's a celebrity, whether it's an influencer, whether it's a family member, someone that they really look up to. And then I ask them, I'm like, okay, what is it about them that you like? They're confident, they're grounded, they're honest, whatever the thing that they embody, that they view as a really great example. And there's no reason that any one of us can also have those same beliefs about ourselves. It's just a story. So it's this process of taking men through this story of what I call a personal declaration as far as who are you? So again, I want you to sit with that. And if you don't have a really bold statement and the way you look at yourself, it's an invitation to you to actually do. There's some work to be done there, because how you see yourself matters more than anything else. Now, this is coming from a guy whose worth for most of his life was rooted in how other people saw him, how other people saw me. My worth was tied to outside validation, pleasing people, placating people, doing all these different things, wearing lots of different masks because I wanted approval. My worth was tied to that. If someone didn't like me, that stung. So what would I do? I would try to do everything I can to like them. Or maybe I would change the narrative or change the story just to try to control the narrative or to how they would show up. It was a lie. And I was in self-betrayal in doing that. I talk a lot about authenticity. The price of authenticity is that people are not going to like you. And let's be honest. I laugh at this sometimes for me is when I have feelings around somebody, not so much today, but in the past, when I had feelings around somebody who doesn't like me, it's just like, if I'm being honest, many times those people I don't like either. And then I take another step back and I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of people I don't like. So who am I to think that everybody's going to like me when I don't like everybody myself? It's so funny how we overcomplicate this stuff. And again, we could get into the layers of why our worth's tied to that and all these different things. Again, I've gone through that. And I can tell you today that I do care what other people think. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. But I am grounded in who I am as a man. I'm more confident in who I am as a man. And today, yes, I care what other people think, but I don't care what other people think more than what I think about myself. That trumps everything. Now, some might call that egotistical, all these different things. To me, that's confidence because I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I know what I want. And yes, it feels good to get appraisal. It feels good to be seen, but I see me. I see me. And it took me over 45 years to get to that. I've always admired men that, put themselves out there, that are authentic, that just say things, that are polarizing and all the different things. And again, and I'm pretty good about, a lot of times I'll see guys that have put themselves out, let's say on social media, that say lots of different things. Like, I don't connect with much of their message. In some cases, not at all, but I respect the fact that they put themselves out there knowing that they're going to get backlash, knowing that they're going to do this. Now, granted, there are people that do that intentionally. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone that is so rooted in their beliefs, right or wrong. You don't have to agree with them, but they have a conviction in this that they're willing to put themselves out there knowing that they're going to get backlash, knowing that things are going to come their way, but yet they still choose to do that anyway. That's staying true to your core values. Now, that's authenticity to me. And again, you don't have to be a dick. You don't have to be polarizing. You don't have to be an asshole. That's not what I'm suggesting. You could take this a number of different ways. I'm just saying that there's a lot of power in just being yourself and being yourself. And to be ourselves, again, it's rooted in the story we're telling ourselves. So as I've rewritten the story in my own life, as I've embodied this process that I take men through, it's transformed my life. And more than anything, it's transformed how I see me. It's helped me not identify with things that I've done in the past. Those are things that I've done. That's not who I am. It is free. Easier said than done. And again, we can all pragmatically, if we're not emotionally attached to something, of course we can say like, oh yeah, of course, But if we're being honest with ourselves, is there something in your life, right, that's happened in the past or some belief, whatever happens to be, like, is there still a part of you that like attaches your worth to that? Like, oh, I can't do that, or I can't do this, or because of this, I'm not able to do this. Again, they're all stories. So let's rewrite them. You're the author. And believe it or not, you can choose to do that. You can change. That is something you have control over. And I take men through a process to be able to understand and learn how to do that. Now, we can write down this incredible statement. And again, part of this process is identifying who we are, and it's what we want. What do you want? If you probably have seen this, and the common theme, there'll be people that interview people that are in their 90s or 100 or late 80s, and they'll ask them, hey, what's your biggest regret of life? What's your biggest regret? What's something you wish you would have done? The most common answer that I've seen in that is they wish they would have taken more risks. They wish they would have gone for it. They wish they wouldn't have settled. Because I can't tell you how many men, and I think this is more for men than women, more from a provider role, if you will, actually live the majority of their life, if not all of their life, feeling like they're not enough, feeling like they couldn't do enough, feeling like they didn't reach their full potential. And I've had seasons of that, and like, I'm done with that. So again, if you want something, you have to go after it. The only difference between someone who's made it or who hasn't made it, whatever made it is to you, is that person who's made it has been willing to do something that you have not been willing to do. And here's the key point, up to this point. But you can choose, you can change, you can do something different. But again, if we want to have a different action plan, if we want to do something different, what we have to do is rewrite the story. We have to get to the base of it. If you have a story that doesn't support, for example, if you want to run $1 billion company and you're making $50,000 a year right now, I mean, that feels like a long far, that gap is pretty big. Is it doable? Hell yeah. You can do it. Lots of people have done it. But what have the people that have done it done, right? They've been scared, but they chose to do it anyway. They were brave. And I'm telling you, if you can rewrite the story, you can be anyone you want or have anything you want if you're willing to do the work. But you have to have this belief. You have to have this conviction. In many ways, you have to have this delusional belief. So again, you're the creator of your life. You're the author of your life. What do you want? It's yours for the taking. Now, I believe God, the universe, we'll just say God, which is the most common, wants us to have it all. I truly believe that. And in order, again, to have it all, we've got to let things go. I think God wants us to have all the money and all the things. But in order to get that, this is the earning part of it. We have to earn it. We have to believe it. We have to do what's necessary to get there. And more often than not, the reason so many people live with regret and not feeling like they're enough or reaching their full potential is because they have not been willing to do what is necessary. Period. And why? Because there's a story attached to it. So just what if, again, planting a seed. What if we just rewrote the story? Is it that easy? Could it be that easy just to rewrite a story? Again, the process isn't, but let's forget all that aside. If you knew just rewriting the story and having an action plan and going that you would get whatever you want, would you do it? Would you do it? You know, my son right now works. I've got two sons that work in the roofing industry, and my 20-year-old son, he's a creative, phenomenal. He's launching a clothing brand. I'm super excited about him doing this, super talented. His passion's in that. His passion is in the clothing line. Eventually he's going to get there. Does he want to be in roofing his whole life? No. It's a means to an end. But one of the things with him is he and I just recently had this conversation. It's like, what's your story attached to roofing? So again, how many people do we know that are in dead-end jobs? They're doing things that they don't like. They don't want to do it. So there's resistance. There's a story attached to it. But what if my son Cole, he's working through this, which is phenomenal to see what's happening, is reframe the story around roofing or reframe the story around all that? What if this is actually part of the clothing brand? This is going to give you the capital. This is going to give you the resources in order to do what you want. And so the more you lean into this today, the faster the clothing line comes. Again, it's a story. It's a reframe. We can reframe everything. Everything's a story. We have the ability to change and tell a different story. So if you have angst, if you have suffering, if you have whatever feeling or emotion that you don't want to feel, it's attached to a story, and you can rewrite that story, even though it feels like you can't. And why do we feel like we can't sometimes? It's because we've had a certain way of thinking our entire life. It's the default. When I was going through the pain of losing my investment business here a few years ago, miserable, painful, so much anxiety, stress, all the things. But there would be moments where I actually felt okay. I felt relief. I felt peace. And you know what would happen in those moments? I felt guilty for it. It didn't feel right. And then I'd get in my head and I'm like, wait a minute, what am I missing? What am I missing? What am I saying? And then I throw myself right back in there. It's like I couldn't even give myself permission to have reprieve, to have joy, to smile, to find beauty in it. Because I think you can find beauty in all the things. But my default at that season and for much of my life was like, what's worst case, and attached to that. And so then when I felt good and I felt peace, it felt foreign. It didn't feel right. Which is, to me, is crazy. And again, it's not to negate taking accountability or doing all the things. I'm not saying that, but we have a choice of how we want to feel. We have a choice. Again, there's going to be pain. There's consequences for all the decisions, positive and negative, that we do. I'm not saying don't feel those or it's not appropriate or it doesn't play a role. What I'm saying is we also have a choice how we view it. And when we can get to the process of knowing that our worth is not attached to something we did, that's where we're able to break through. Yeah, it still hurts. I'm like, oh shit, I just did that. Ugh. Yeah, it stings and it hurts a little bit, but you can move through it. And the faster, this process isn't to avoid pain. You're going to feel pain. It's to not feel as much. You know, if you're feeling guilty about something, guilt's a positive emotion. It's just not to have shame attached to it. It's to help you move through things quicker. And again, I said this at the beginning, pain, heartache, all these different things, they're actually gifts. But the gift in the moment hurts. And the reality is how long that pain lasts is on us. Truly, it's on us. We've got a choice and we get to choose different. So again, this process is like who you are, what do you want? And I really push men, I'm like, what do you want? Go out there, put yourself out there. Put yourself out there. And then I take men through a process what I call the embodied man. You can't just write something down and then be like, okay, here we go. You've got to embody this. You've got to believe it. So I take them through intentional things that you do to embody this, to listen to this, to reprogram. The reprogramming takes time, and you can expedite this process in doing that. It's this embodied man. So again, we get someone that goes through these phases, if you will, these modules. So now we have this new story. We know what we want. It's big, it's huge, or whatever it happens to be. Now here comes the part where you earn it. So just because you believe it, just because you're thinking it, just because you're dreaming it up and you're visioning and you even have a vision board or whatever, to me, this is the first step of manifestation. Manifestation, especially in the spiritual woo-woo community, is way overused. You can't just think something and all of a sudden the universe is going to hand it to you. The reality is you've got to believe that you are that. You've got to step into that timeline and into that belief and be the guy that actually has all of those things now. You've got to embody that entire process. And I take people of how you can do that. And then it requires action to get there. Now, again, I'll give you an example. I've got a gentleman I'm working with, a client right now, phenomenal transformation, growth, like really great hearing story. And he wants to step into the coaching and wants to work with men. And one of his big goals or visions or dreams, if you will, is to speak on stage. And he was dreaming that up. He's like, I want to speak in front of 1,000 people. I'm like, I love it. So then I start asking questions. Okay, so tell me why. He's got all the reasons why. He's got all these different things. He's never spoken before. This is a dream of his. He wants to speak on stage. Okay, and I love it. I honor that. But so what can we do today that's going to be the next logical step, an action plan, if you will, in order to get there? What's the first thing you can do? Right? And this is a gentleman that hasn't put himself out on social. In fact, social, sometimes makes him a little nervous to put himself out there. And so again, in a gentle way, again, framing it, asking questions, it's like, hey, does the guy that gets on stage and speaks to 1,000 people, is he nervous at all to go on social media? Well, no. Okay. So let's start there. Let's start posting. What's the next best step? What's the next best step? We get so caught up in what we want, and then it feels so far away, no matter what the goal happens to be, that it feels too far out of reach, too overwhelming, impossible. Then we just let it go. We go back into the same routine. And then guess what happens? We have more guilt. We have more feelings of not enoughness. We feel less than because it feels impossible. So how do we move through things, and how do we get to where we actually falling in love with the journey? It's not about the destination. And I could spend hours and hours talking about men that have had incredible, 8, 9-figure plus exits in their business, expecting that once this sells, then everything's going to be great. But through the chaos of that, lost a relationship, lost friend, lost themselves in it. And then all of a sudden they have a bank account with $100+ million in it, and they're miserable, and it wasn't what they thought they were. And they're actually more depressed than they've ever been. It's not about the destination. It's about the journey. And then again, we have to be able to reverse engineering. We need an action plan. And this would apply in any pillar of your life. So for example, for any of you men that are having disconnect in your marriage, and let's say you're that guy that says you're going to do all these things and you don't follow through. It's something simple as taking the garbage out, right? So now, you know what, all right, I'm ready. I'm going to take the garbage out. And then all of a sudden you take the garbage out and then come back in and expect your wife's going to rip your clothes off and jump you right there because you took the garbage out. Well, it doesn't work like that. You've got to build evidence. You might need to take the garbage out, in this example, for 3 months before she can actually trust you. It's one day at a time. One day at a time. Same thing with fitness. When I weighed 350 pounds, I'm down over 130 pounds now. To even think, I wanted to look like this. I didn't even think it was possible. It felt overwhelming. I didn't want to start. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got so far to go. But then again, when I finally, hit the rock bottom moment and started taking it just a day at a time, one day at a time. And with time, I started to lose weight. It started to work. And I focused on what I could do today. So yes, let's have long-term goals. Let's have the big vision. Let's go after it. But what can I do today that moves me incrementally closer? It's the ripple effect. It's the ripple effect. And so I take men, and we have a very guided accountability, action plan that we reverse engineer back into this to move them forward to whatever it happens to be, whether it's financial, whether it's your body, whether it's in your marriage, whether it's in your spiritual connection, whether it's your emotional mental state. The formula works the same, but it takes time. It takes time. And the goal is to be able to build small wins, follow through on commitments, be integrous, and speak the truth, especially to yourself. And I'm telling you, I've completely transformed my life in this. When I made the decision, I actually had another coach that I hired to help me with this. It introduced this concept, and I took it and ran. It just resonated. It's almost like one of those things where God grabbed me by the head and said, Adam, you got to look at this. I devoured it, and then took it and then made it my own. And I'm telling you, the minute I started to embody this process of what I do, my life changed literally overnight. And I'm not just saying that. And I've seen it with countless men that when it finally clicks, the men that lean in and actually do the work and do this, like anything is possible. I am telling you that from someone that's lost everything, yet rebuilt everything. And the loss was the gift. I found myself in the darkness. I found myself that I ripped away the stories. Painful, uncomfortable, to levels that I can't even begin to articulate. But I am so grateful for that I stayed in it. And as I said at the beginning, I nearly took my life. I nearly killed myself. I disassociated from life. The people would be better off without me. For a season there, I believed that. I convinced myself of that. And guess what? That was a story. And I'm grateful that I didn't do that, because many men have done that and would do that. And it's sad and it's heartbreaking, and yet it's still just a story, and we have the power to do that. And I'll tell you guys, for those that you know me well, like, there's power in sharing this. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to admit that, like, hey, I'm kind of a mess right now. It's okay that the entire world, you know, you're dressed to the nines, you're making a shit ton of money, you've got the house, you've got all the things. So on paper, it's like, God, he's got his shit together. It's okay that you don't. It's okay to speak it. It's okay to admit it and actually pull off the mask and be like, I'm actually a mess right now. And I don't like how I see myself, and I don't like how I feel. And I'm scared to even admit it, because then all of a sudden people are going to see me differently. But the truth is, if you feel that way, if you've got a void in your life, you've got to honor. That's your soul talking to you. That's like, something's out of alignment. Something's not working. And I can tell you from experience, you can't turn to addictions or behaviors and bury it. You cannot. It will catch up to you. All you're doing is kicking the can down the road. If your worth and the way you see yourself is tied to how much money's in your bank account and how you show up, and you don't see or have the other parts of your life developed, I'm telling you, it will crash. It will come down. You will live a life of misery. There is so much more in life that's available to you if you're willing to actually take off the mask and be vulnerable. We all have weaknesses. We all have shortcomings. We all have limiting beliefs. Own it. And one of the things you get with working with me is a safe place to be able to completely open up, because guess what? I'm open. And you're not going to be judged by me. You are going to be received, and I will hold you accountable. I'm going to push you, but I'm not an asshole. I'm also going to meet you in your heart space. I'm going to connect with you. I know the pain, what it feels like to wear a mask. I know what that feels like. I'm telling you, brother, you can take it off. You don't need to wear it. You can take the mask off. You can breathe. You can just be a complete shit show, and it's okay. And guess what? When you actually show up that way, you open the door for other men to be like, oh my God, if he's that way, then it's okay if I'm not. And people might be, oh, I thought, so-and-so was this way, or so-and-so is this way. And they have all these things going on. Some people might judge that. Let them. The people that are judging are just projecting their own thing onto them. They've got their own shit. But I'll tell you, more often than not, it'll open the door, and people will respect the hell out of you for speaking what? The truth. So be honest, be truthful. And again, one of the reasons you hire a coach, right, is to get there quicker. Again, you can do all of this shit on your own. You can research this. You've got AI. You can do all these things. When you're looking for a coach, when you're looking for someone to hire, and again, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years in coaches. I'm a huge advocate. This is my career. I'm in this. I believe in this. And I will tell you that it's to help you get you somewhere quicker. It's to help get you somewhere. It's someone that's been through where you've been. Literally, I have a new client that just recently started with me, and he goes, the reason I'm hiring you is he's like, every major fear that I have, you've lived through. Literally, that's the reason he chose me over some pretty prominent other coaches. He goes, but you've lived through it, and you're more confident now than you've ever been, and I don't even know how that's possible. The reality is, find somebody that's been through something, someone that you can connect something. And one thing that I'm super passionate and something that I truly believe in is you cannot know something. Hear me out on this. I'm going to be really direct on this. You cannot know something unless you've experienced it. Now, this whole term coach or life coach, right? Everybody's a life coach. Everybody's a coach today. Listen, I have my own story around this, and even my own story or attachment to the word life coach. Everybody's a life coach. You can go take a 12-week course, and all of a sudden you're certified to be a life coach. And again, there's sound principles. There's different things that are there. There's theories. There's great principles. But I'm telling you, unless you've experienced something, you don't know. You just don't know. So one of the gifts that you get with me is I get to connect in your pain. I know it. I've experienced it. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to make millions of dollars and to lose it all. I know what it feels like to be morbidly overweight and to be in phenomenal shape. I know what divorce feels like. I know what heartache feels like. I know what all of those things feel like. I'm telling you, I know it from my own experience. And one of the greatest things, again, in working with me is like, you're going to be seen. It's going to be okay to open up. It's going to be okay to be a complete shit show. But theory of how something works versus real life experience are very different. I mean, how many professors at the universities teach business, theory, sound principles, all the different things? It's all great, but have never run a business. You don't know unless you've actually run it. You know, professors are those adjunct professors that come in, teach classes, but run businesses and are entrepreneurs that actually do the work. And think about people in your own life. Think about, you are going to connect. If you're going through a storm or a season, you're going to listen or seek out advice from people that have gone through that storm. When I had my investment firm, I used to give advice to couples all the time that were going through divorce. It was good. It was pragmatic, came from a great place. And then I went through my own divorce, and guess what? I didn't know shit. I thought I knew. A completely different perspective. And when I was going through that, whenever I was talking to people, if someone had been through one, I'd be like, oh, tell me more. What did you experience? I felt seen too. And then they would have advice. Oh my gosh, they've been through this. They know. Versus somebody else. The advice might be good and well. Again, theory, all the different things. It's not that it was bad. It's yet when knowledge comes from experience. It comes from experience. So with me, you get somebody that's got a tremendous amount of experience, that's living this. And one thing you'll get with me is you will never hear me say something or coach or guide or invite you to do that I am not currently doing myself or something I've done. My integrity matters to me. As I said earlier in the show, there has been seasons in my life where I have been out of integrity, and the pain of that, I'm not going to do that for anyone else, more importantly than for me. People can feel like an imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know if I'm this, but being an imposter, I will not do. And there are plenty of people in this space, men's coaches, people I know in my own community here that are influencers, have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers that are saying all the things. But I promise you, many of those men are living a different life behind the scenes. And how they present themselves and who they are in real life are very different. I refuse to subscribe to that. I will not do that. I'm going to be authentically me. And if there's a connection that we can meet together, great. But I'm in a season of my life today that if you walked into my bedroom at 3 a.m., you're going to see the same guy, just like you see me here, just like you see me on social or anywhere else. Like, I want to be authentically me all the time. That's really important to me. I believe that the more authentic I am, the more confident I am, the more integrous I am, the more free I am, and the more peace that I have. I'm telling you, all these things are aligned. And as we wrap up here, all of this stuff is rooted in a story. But remember, guys, you cannot build a foundation over lies, over betrayals, over the shit that you've done if you haven't made amends or tried to make amends or if you've told the truth. I'm telling you, you can't outrun it. And you're lying to yourself if you think you can. It doesn't work that way. God, the universe wants you to speak the truth. And I truly believe for those that actually step into this, because it's so rare, that you're actually rewarded and blessed beyond measure that you could possibly even imagine, even more so than the others that can't or aren't able to do. I believe that. I honor each and every one of you. I'm so grateful for you guys listening to me. For those of you that want to learn more information or even set up a call with me, go to my website, burnup.com. There's information on, my one-on-one coaching, my group coaching, some of the things that I do, and more around my philosophies of this. Or follow me on social. It's just my name, Adam Nugent, on all the major platforms. Again, this is, as you can tell, this is very passion-driven. This is very purpose-driven to me. And I'm so grateful for all of the pain and all of the hardship that I've gone through, because it's led me to who I am today and where I'm going. And I feel more aligned, more excited for life, and empowered, if you will, with who I am as a man and helping others step into the flame. Ladies and gentlemen, men, you especially, your freedom is in the fire. Your freedom is in speaking the truth. The truth hurts, but it will set you free. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next week on next week's episode of the Burn Up Podcast.